If you want to see a martyr walking on the face of the earth, look at Talhah. That's what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said. And today, we're diving straight into the incredible story of a man who literally turned his body into a human shield to save the Prophet, yet was also a guy who gave away a mind-boggling 700,000 dirhams before the sun could even set.
Welcome to this explainer, where we're unpacking the deeply dramatic and, honestly, emotionally resonant life of Talhah ibn Ubaydullah. We know him as the living martyr, but what makes him truly fascinating is this amazing duality. He was a fierce, unwavering protector on the battlefield, but simultaneously a limitlessly generous soul in his community. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. The Prophecy of Busra, a monk's call in Syria.
So our story actually starts far away from Mecca, up in the bustling ancient markets of the Levant. Talhah was a young, highly successful merchant of the Banu Taym clan. Picture this, he's trading in Syria, and out of nowhere he hears a Christian monk calling out from a hermitage, asking if any of the merchants were from Mecca. The monk makes this startling prophecy, saying the final prophet, named Ahmed, had emerged. I mean, imagine hearing that. Spurred by this massive claim, Talhah cuts his trip short, rushes all the way back home, and goes straight to his cousin Abu Bakr for advice. When he finds out Abu Bakr has already believed in the message of Muhammad, peace be upon him, Talhah doesn't hesitate for a second. He goes right to the Prophet, embraces Islam, and becomes one of the very first 8 people to enter the faith.
But as you can probably guess, this early conversion came with a brutal price tag. Part 2. The two tied together, the price of faith.
In a society that was violently opposed to their new faith, Talhah and Abu Bakr became immediate targets, and they earned the name Al-Qarinain, which translates to the two tied together. Out in the streets of Mecca, they were seized by Nawfal ibn Khuwaylid, a really fearsome guy nicknamed the Lion of Quraysh. Nawfal actually took Talhah and Abu Bakr, bound them tightly together with a single rope, and just left them to be beaten and tortured by an angry mob. And honestly, the most heartbreaking part of all this, Talhah's own clan, the Banu Taym, just stood by and completely refused to help him.
That thick rope of shared agony in a dark Meccan alley became this beautiful, enduring symbol. They were bound in pain, but united in truth. It forever connected their hearts in brotherhood and earned them that lifelong, honorable title of the two tied together. It's just a striking reminder for us today of what true resilience and loyalty actually look like when faced with overwhelming adversity.
Part 3. The Shield of Uhud, the Day of Talhah. Talhah was absolutely devastated that he had to miss the earlier Battle of Badr because he was out on a scouting mission. But Uhud would be his day. During the absolute chaos of the battle, the Muslim lines broke under a surprise cavalry charge, leaving the Prophet dangerously exposed. Only a small circle of defenders remained. The Prophet asked for volunteers to push back the advancing Meccans, and 11 men from the Ansar stepped forward one by one. Tragically, all 11 fell defending him. Finally, only Talhah was left. And man, Talhah fought like a raging one-man army. He leaped over the path of horror, striking left and right, completely and entirely focused on shielding the bleeding Prophet.
The sheer physical toll this took on him is almost unimaginable. As a volley of arrows rained down on the Prophet, Talhah literally intercepted a deadly arrow with his bare hand. The impact permanently paralyzed his fingers. He took blow after blow, sustaining over 70 severe wounds from swords, spears, and arrows. At one point, he even squatted down while bleeding out so the Prophet could step on his back to climb a boulder to safety. Talhah only stopped when he physically collapsed into a hollow from severe blood loss. When Abu Bakr rushed to the scene, the Prophet told him to leave him be and tend to Talhah first. Because of this unimaginably selfless physical sacrifice, the Prophet bestowed upon him the highest honor imaginable. He gave him the title Al-Shahid al-Hay, which means the living martyr. He was a man who had fulfilled his ultimate pledge to God, yet was somehow still walking upon the face of the earth. Abu Bakr would later say that whenever the Battle of Uhud was mentioned, it was, without a doubt, the day of Talhah.
Now, let's shift gears a bit to see the other side of this amazing character. Part 4. The Generous Merchant, a Fortune Given Away.
Talhah was an incredibly successful businessman. He built an estate eventually worth around 30 million dirhams. But wealth didn't corrupt him. Actually, it terrified him. On one occasion, he received a massive single payment of 700,000 dirhams from a land sale. Instead of celebrating like most people would, it caused him a sleepless night of pure anxiety. He just couldn't sleep while that much gold remained in his house. He was pacing, distressed, totally overwhelmed by the spiritual burden of holding so much wealth overnight, and his profound sense of accountability to Allah.
Seeing how distressed he was, His wife, Kulthum, brilliantly advised him to simply distribute it, and Talhah didn't even wait for the sun to rise. He gathered the money up in bags and handed out every single coin to the poor and needy in the dark hours of the early morning. He didn't stop until his house was completely empty. In a modern era completely obsessed with accumulation, seeing his total detachment from material wealth is absolutely staggering.
He was constantly paying off massive debts for his relatives, sometimes tens of thousands of dirhams at a time. He provided for widows, orphans, and literally anyone in need, to the point where people said they had never seen anyone give away so much without even being asked. Because of this boundless generosity, the Prophet lovingly gave him 3 titles: Talhah al-Khair, meaning Talhah the Good, Talhah al-Fayyad, Talhah the Copious, and Talhah al-Jud, Talhah the Generous. His open hands were just as defining to his legacy as his paralyzed one.
Finally, we reach the twilight of his life. Part 5, The Final Peace. Withdrawal at the Camel.
This tragic civil war, known as the Battle of the Camel, was sparked by the shocking assassination of the third caliph, Uthman. Now, we have to look at this impartially. This was a tragic conflict of priorities between incredibly noble people. Talhah was driven by a sincere, desperate demand for justice, qisas, for the murder of Uthman. He felt the killers needed to be prosecuted immediately. On the flip side, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the new caliph, insisted that the state was far too fractured and that restoring order and stability had to come first before any trials could begin. This differing interpretation tragically placed these 2 lifelong brothers on opposite sides of a battlefield. But right before the clash, something truly remarkable happened. Ali rode out and met with Talhah and his companion Zubair between the lines. Ali movingly reminded them of their shared bonds of faith, their history with the Prophet, and a specific prophecy regarding the conflict. Hearing this, a tearful Talhah realized the horror of the situation. He had a heart that sought only the pleasure of Allah, so he chose peace. Refusing to shed Muslim blood over this dispute, he literally turned his horse away to withdraw completely from the fighting.
As he departed the field, choosing that path of peace, Talhah was tragically struck in the thigh by a stray, poisoned arrow. It was actually fired by Marwan, a man from his own coalition who blamed Talhah for the unrest. As the blood flowed, Talhah lay down, using a simple stone as his final pillow. Recognizing his fate, he accepted it as an arrow sent by God, bleeding out and finally fulfilling his long-awaited destiny of martyrdom.
After the battle, Ali walked among the fallen. Finding Talhah's grave, he stood under a starry sky with tears in his eyes and prayed over him, saying, "Talhah and Zubair are my neighbors in paradise." It brilliantly illustrates the ultimate tragedy and beauty of his life, and it leaves us with a profound question. In a modern world obsessed with ego and accumulation, how many of us have the strength to turn our backs on a fortune or turn our horses away from a fight simply for the sake of peace? What kind of legacy are you building?